As we move into Latin America, we're going to talk about the ancient civilization of the Aztecs. The Aztecs inhabited what is current-day Mexico and Central America. Their area or their empire extended from central Mexico all the way down into El Salvador and Honduras and went from the Pacific to the Gulf of Mexico. The Aztec Empire civilization existed between the 12th and 15th century. An empire is a collection of city-states. What would happen with the Aztec Triple Alliance? The Triple Alliance was formed of Tenochtitlan, Texcoco, and Tlacopan. They would conquer different cities and put someone at the head of the city in charge, but they would keep the local government. So the local government would in turn create a stability and a familiarity, and the city-states would have to pay taxes or tributes to the empire. And we'll get into that when we get into the culture and religion of what type of tributes they would have to pay. The Tenochtitlan is current-day Mexico City and also the heart of the military section. They had a strong military basis, and they would set out and conquer different cities as they expanded and made the empire much larger. Moving on to the Aztec people or culture. Tenochtitlan was a city on Lake Texcoco, and there's a legend behind how the Aztec people found and inhabited their city. As legend has it, they were told by their god came to them and told them to look for a land with a cactus, with an eagle perched on a cactus holding a snake. They roamed for 200 years, and when they arrived at Lake Texcoco, they actually, legend has it or rumor has it, that they saw the eagle perched on the cactus holding the snake, and then they settled, and they were told to make peace with their neighbors, which is contrary to what we know about the Aztecs as a warring tribe or a warring civilization. Within their culture, they were actually a very educated civilization. They had a calendar that tracked the Earth's cycle around the sun. They also had an advanced marketplace, as we read in letters from Cortes back to the Spanish royalty. In the marketplace, he said that there were at least 60,000 people bartering. There were no forms of money exchanged, and they would purchase medicine, pottery, herbs, and foods. They would use cocoa beans to settle the difference of small bartered items, which Cortes actually found this to be kind of interesting. We'll get more into who Hernan Cortes is in a second. The Aztec people were also polygamist and polytheist. Polygamy, or poly, means many in Latin, and when we place it in front of polygamist, it means that they had many wives. And polytheism is the belief of many gods. So poly plays a big role in their culture in terms of religion and daily life. Getting into their religion, they believed in sun gods. They also had a creation myth. They firmly believed in balance in nature. They believed in omens and sacrifices. To go deeper into their religion, sun gods, the story of how the world was made revolves around 5 different gods. It was said it took 5 tries to make the earth, and what the gods had to do was sacrifice themselves, and they used to take turns being a sun. The sun was considered weak, and upon one of the gods sacrificing himself for the humans, they found that he was a weak sun and he didn't move through the sky, and that it would take all of their blood. So they all sacrificed themselves for humans, and then the final god, Quetzalcoatl, allegedly, man had already walked the earth before, so he had to go into the underworld and grab the bones and bring them back to earth. Well, on the way back from the underworld, or the afterlife, to earth, he tripped and fell and dropped the bones, and they broke into small pieces. And this is the story of origin of why people are so many different sizes. This was not enough, though, for Quetzalcoatl had to give his blood in order to bring man to life, and so he did. The balance in nature, all of the sacrifice came at a cost. And the sun was weak already, so they believed in human sacrifices. They would take tributes from the cities that they would conquer, and they would sacrifice these humans every day to make sure that the sun would come up the next day, because the sun was supposed to be weak. And this helped establish a balance in nature. Montezuma II, also known as the Young, was the popular emperor or king amongst the Aztecs. He's one of the most notorious kings because he was in charge when the Spanish invaded Mexico or Tenochtitlan for the first time. The first European or Spanish contact was under his reign, and the empire was also at its height when the Spanish had come. He believed that Hernan Cortes was a god. When Cortes came in 1519, he slowly made his way to Tenochtitlan. When he first arrived, he was on a horse, and the Aztecs had never seen horse or gunpowder before, and he believed that the god had returned and showered him with gifts. In return, Cortes shot off cannon fire and scared the Aztecs. There was also a great comet in 1517, and going back to the Aztecs' religious beliefs, they believed this was a bad omen of something to come. And indeed, the Spanish came in 1519, and this corroborated the impending doom that they believed that the comet was a sign of. There were actually 8 omens, 8 bad omens, the comet being one of the last of the 8. The Spanish invasion was in 1519 when our lovely conquistador Hernan Cortes was sent by the Spanish. A conquistador is a soldier or adventurer sent by the Portuguese or Spanish Empire. During this time, the Spanish and the Portuguese Empire had a stronger naval fleet, and they were discovering the New World. Cortes was not of significant birth, but he decided to make a living pursuing the New World and exploration. He explored Hispaniola, which we know is Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. They inhabit the same island and form the island of Hispaniola, which was named by Christopher Columbus. And he also went to Cuba. After he left Cuba, this was all prior to the 1519 exploration, he came to Mexico or landed in Latin America and started his conquest of Mexico and Tenochtitlan and the Aztec Empire. As some main reasons why they would be sent to explore would be for, I would call the 3 G's: gold, glory, and God. The Spanish and the Portuguese were primarily Catholic and supported the expansion and the spread of Catholicism, so they carried religion with them and replaced the gods and statues of the Aztec people with their own Catholic saints and their Catholic beliefs. They were also seeking gold. Gold is still valuable today, so we can understand why conquistadors would seek gold out. Also glory. Glory being the expansion of the Spanish or the Portuguese Empire, in this case the Spanish Empire, and just another area that is conquered that the Spanish can stick their flag in, basically. Cortes had an ingenious method. When he arrived, he befriended the indigenous people, or the rivals of the Aztecs. As we know, the Aztecs had a triple alliance, and at this point, they're at the height of their empire, and the Triple Alliance started to weaken and fall apart. Also, neighboring city-states were not big fans of the Aztecs, so they joined Cortes's belief or his goal of conquering, and they decided to become allies. Several things led to the fall of the Aztecs. Number one was their religion. Now, most scholars believe that that Montezuma believed that Cortes was indeed a god when he arrived, but there is some controversy. Ethno-historians like to believe that some of the history was written post-Spanish invasion, meaning that it was more of a reflective account of what happened, and a lot of rationalization occurred, meaning that the Aztecs tried to rationalize why their empire fell and gave credit to it, Montezuma, number one, being a weak emperor, and also the omens. They go back and try to justify or rationalize how the Spanish came in, and it was a fulfilling of a prophecy, or the Spanish destiny. The ritual sacrifices also led to the fall of their empire. There were mass numbers of people being sacrificed each day. And I mean, if you think back to Hunger Games, let's talk about Hunger Games for a second with the capital. The capital fell out of favor quickly when they required tributes every year from the district. So think of the city-states as districts, and the Tenochtitlan and the Aztec Empire, the capital, requiring these sacrifices. So even their own, even other Aztecs didn't agree with some of the ritual sacrifices. It led to the fall of the Triple Alliance, and also angered the neighbors. 2, disease. With the Spanish came smallpox, and an epidemic spread, and at least 25% of the population of the Aztecs were wiped out, which was believed to be about 5 million Aztecs at the time, making this civilization in Mexico City the most populated in the world. Also the tactics, the Spanish fought different from how they were used to. They had guns, they had technology that the Aztecs did not have and had not been exposed to up until this point. So these 3 things led to the fall of the Aztec Empire, in addition to Spanish exploration and Hernan Cortes' colonization and conquest of Mexico. Now I want you to take a minute, and I want you to ask yourself if you actually think that they really believed that the Spaniards were gods. We know that the Aztecs at this point were an educated civilization. They had marketplaces, calendars, a bartering system. Do you actually think that the Aztecs believed the Spanish were gods, or do you think that the ethno-historians and modern day skepticism is correct, and that indeed that history was written post occurring?